Thomas Park here, and I'm going to talk about a property in music. The best example might be to be called a refrain, or a chorus has this property. But there's kind of a property in music where a theme is played, maybe in a song, a melody. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. It's a very nice melody. And then you may notice that throughout the song, there are little variations of that original melody that come up. So you hear this melody, and there'll be maybe one part that's a little part of that. The horns will play, or maybe a part that brings it backwards and plays it in reverse. A lot of composers do this, it seems, on purpose. I've heard things like that Mozart, he would play a theme and then he intentionally play it backwards, and it was something he could do very naturally in his head. What I think is that it's very normal in music for that to happen, where if a theme is kind of catchy or catches the ear or mind, then it's very simple and very natural for that theme to show up again, with some variation throughout a piece. This is something that's been known about music, I think, all along. It's nothing particularly new about it. To broaden that a little, I think the way we think can be like music too, and that's why music is so pleasing to listen to. So there's another word, gestalt, that kind of relates to this. If someone brings up a particular restaurant to me, I've just moved to a new part of the world. I've moved to Florida. And if someone brings up a restaurant to me, then I tend to think of that restaurant for the next several days or weeks, even months. And the reason I think of that one and not others is because someone mentioned it to me. It is simply that someone brought it up, said it's good, and I chatted with them for a minute about it, and now I think about the restaurant when I think of that I'm either hungry, or sometimes it'll occur to me that I'm at a particular area or street, and I'll think, oh, here's where that pizza place is, and I'll think, I should go in and see how it is. So this again is nothing at all shocking or new about the human mind, and I think it can actually help people learn and navigate, and in a way maybe how people learn as a whole might have something to do with this idea. Some combination of gestalt, or how the mind seeks out recognizing things that has already occurred to it, and also other musical principles like the refrain and repetition and variations of things. These are all very much how the mind works. The reason is partly that I don't think we can always take in new information and have completely new ideas altogether all the time. I'll tell you, as I've gotten older, my thinking has slowed down. I don't have the hectic thinking I used to when I was younger. So I feel that I'm less confused, but it also makes me more open to gestalt patterns. That is, when I think less, what I do think about in here, I tend to notice more and more in the world around me. So I guess what I'm saying here is just throwing out a point of interest. I don't really know where my ideas come from always. Sometimes I could say, oh, that might have been why. But thoughts may occur to people, and they may not be entirely sure where they come from. I know I usually have little thoughts occasionally that are of frustration, that seem kind of extreme or perverse, but those are mostly vocalizing pain, like, oh gosh darn it, when I stub my toe, something like that. That's a pretty common feeling, I think. But also an idea suddenly will occur to me about how to help, or how not to help, or something like it, and I may not know where that comes from. But it's a possibility. It might be a variation on a thought I was having earlier, or someone else suggested, um, or I saw in some movie or play, like some little refrain or part of that play, or the bigger picture might recur to me, and then that might be where the idea came from. So I guess as far as a risk from that, it's a bit like when you read a tweet that someone says, if you don't realize the bigger picture, the larger narrative, or the larger piece where that tweet was taken from, that quote. I think a lot of politicians and a lot of people have been misquoted on Twitter simply by truncating what they're saying. Like if you took the quote and put it in its context, it would mean something different than it does on Twitter. I actually think there's a definition to things like slander and libel where it mentions this idea. Like if a senator says, "Please don't say I love Trump," and then the tweet is Senator James says, "I love Trump." You can see how clearly that's not the intention of the original quote. It was truncated. I've seen things that are really about that silly that people have done when they quote people. So it's possible, I think, that the thoughts that might occur to people might occur out of context and be easily reapplied to other contexts. And the warning would be, when you have an idea, and if you think about it, it's probably good to put it back into a larger picture and say, interesting, I wonder where this idea fits in with everything else that's gone on that subject. I just had this idea, I'm going to do some sound recordings in the forest. Why did I think about that? Is there a larger picture? Is it something that is worth looking into, or is it something that has its own limits as well? When I was raised, I think I was taught not to worry about where my thoughts came from. But as I've gotten older, it's an interest of mine, because it is a mystery sometimes. That a thought will occur to me, it could be very helpful. It could save my neck, it could make me safer, it could make my work better, or it might not. It might be deceptive and not help, or something like it. So it's just, at the very least, it's something that I bring up as an interest, that when people suddenly have an idea, or if I suddenly have an idea, whether it's meant to help or not, is it a reflection of an earlier thought that was seen somewhere else, or an earlier thought I had or observed in some media or something like it? Or is it in fact spontaneously generated, truly a lightning bolt in the air? Like it said, there was this idea, when did inorganic matter become organic matter? And one of the better ideas that people came up with was a lightning bolt struck inanimate and inorganic matter and turned it into organic matter by somehow making carbon appear or something. It sounds very unlikely. But because lightning is also this kind of idea of a sudden strike of energy or change, at the very least it sounds like it's metaphorically possible. That some big burst of energy, something random, if not lightning unlike it, could have done it. I still suggest that people don't know where organic matter emerged from, or how it emerged. So anyway, just some thoughts that when we think, are we thinking intentionally? Are we thinking for ourselves, our own thoughts? Are we kind of singing along? Are we picking up thoughts and patterns that others have laid down for us? It's infinitely kind of questioning. It has a fey quality, like a playful quality. Sometimes you follow your thoughts back down into their own source, but it is certainly something that is not always clear to me. So, just some thoughts on that by Thomas Park. Thank you.